Flash, Sarah Spain, Clinton Yates, Frank Isola. Today, LeBron versus New York.
Why's he got to pick on the guy from Turkey and the guy from...
Settle down, Frank. Also, last night's Panthers versus the Panthers Super Bowl team from 2 years ago. And also, the things you break when you make the World Cup.
Oh, no.
Versus the lives you wreck when you win musical chairs.
Get it, girl.
Let's go around that
College Park.
That's my turf right there. Is that what you're saying, Clint?
That's just another day at IKEA.
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter.
King of New York,
Here's
LeBron
Tony Reale.
proclaims. That is a beautiful
Rubbing
photo.
it in.
My compliments to the chef. Greatest trick LeBron ever pulled was convincing the world there was compelling basketball in November. This was awesome, though, even for you, Frank. How the Knicks looked those first three quarters, how the Cavs came back from 23 down, the 30 points LeBron scored or assisted on in the fourth quarter, the 3 over Porzingis. But where we start, a Frank from New York in the middle of something, of course, LeBron picking a fight, and Enes Kanter obliging him. Frank Isola, you were there. What's more significant, that LeBron could spur his team like that, or that the Knicks showed some backbone?
Yeah, it's not the first time LeBron's picked on a guy named Frank from New York. I like what Kanter did in the post-Carmelo Anthony era. It's good that you're going to stand up to LeBron. But, you know, the Knicks had already beaten Cleveland once before this season. You're up 23 at home. You can't give up 43 points in the fourth quarter. Guess what? That's the most points any team has scored this year in the fourth quarter, and it's a road team, a team that had been awful for the first 3 quarters of this game. That's a bad loss for the Knicks.
And is it because LeBron picked that fight when Ntilikina and picked that fight with Kanter and got his team back?
Not really. You know, right after that happened, the Knicks went on a run. Tyronn Lue benched all of his starters at one point in the third quarter. Then he went with Channing Frye, Kyle Korver, Dwayne Wade. Those are the guys that brought them back. And then LeBron was LeBron in the fourth quarter.
Clinton, what did you see last night? First with LeBron picking that fight and then the fourth quarter.
I enjoyed every single part of it. I like that because it happened for the Knicks that well. It is good for the league in a good context as well. Everybody likes it when the New York Knicks are a good team. And also, Enes Kanter, we're talking about a guy who is not backing down to his own president in his nation. He is certainly not concerned with what LeBron James has to say on the court. I loved what Enes Kanter had to do. I'm just glad jerseys got ripped in the process.
Okay, but you said everybody likes it when the Knicks are going well. Does that mean nobody's liked it for the last 15 years?
I think, yes. I think there's a reasonable argument that the Knicks being a down franchise in this league has been an overall problem, and having them on the radar for any reason is better than not.
Sarah Spain, where do you come down on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course it's better when the Knicks are good, but I don't think we need to go so far as to say they're good because they took a 7-7 Cleveland team, got a lead, and then blew it big. I'm not really as interested in the basketball side of things. It doesn't surprise me when LeBron picks a fight. It doesn't surprise me when LeBron and the Cavs put together a big comeback and play well. What does make me happy is seeing a Knicks team that feels unified. It was such a garbage fire under Phil Jackson. All of the conversations were about how everything was falling apart at Madison Square Garden. Now you got a bunch of guys that look like they're playing together and fighting for each other, and that's a much bigger and more important
so
thing
you're taking the bright side of a 23-point blown lead and loss at home. Now we'll go to Bill Plaschke.
Yeah, Clinton, somehow the NBA has survived with the Lakers being good and San Antonio being good. Somehow the Lakers have made it well. But Frank, I will take opposition to Frank's column today. You called the loss demoralizing for the Knicks. I would say it's empowering for the Knicks. I think the whole sight of Kanter jumping in LeBron James's face in the same court where last year, right, their Charles Oakley was taken away in handcuffs, one of their stars. So Kanter is talking about family again at Madison Square Garden. The Knicks are talking about family again. That's something I've never seen in my 35 years in this business of the Knicks even acting anything like that at all.
Okay.
And that was fun.
You can defend your column and yourself.
Demoralizing.
Couple of things. Last year, Kanter, if you remember, was in street clothes, and when Westbrook got into it with Kevin Durant, he came off the bench during a timeout and started yelling at Kevin Durant. So he likes going after superstars, But if you like this whole Cleveland, New York thing, guess what? They don't play until the final 2 games of the season when as we all know, the stars tend to sit out games. So I'm not even sure we're going to see LeBron again this season.
But him claiming New York for his own now, the king of New York, how does that rub you as our New Yorker?
Well, he's dominated at the Garden. It's going to drive Knicks fans crazy because back in 2010, the Knicks were hoping to get him, and he said, no.
Yeah, they were hoping because people at the Daily News were writing there was a chance they could get him. That's why they were hoping. Clinton Yates.
Never a chance.
After the Horde.
The king of New York is the late, great Biggie Smalls. And number 2, the Knicks record is still technically better than the Cavs.
Sarah Spain.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I like Cantor standing up to LeBron, but let's leave the Queen.
Was to prove they're the real deal. Did they prove that to you, Clinton?
They did not prove that to me. I still don't trust the Carolina Panthers simply because they rely too much on Cam Newton's temperament. That being said, they look like a team that has finally got themselves back under control. What I liked best about this game was that of all the yards Cam had on the ground, they were all designed runs, which means that they have confidence in him in terms of how they're executing their offense. Listen, if he's not in it to play, they can't win. But they have righted the ship from what was happening earlier off the field from a franchise.
Okay, give us the headline here, because there was a Curb Your Enthusiasm, like having said that in the middle there, that kind of negates everything you said before that. You don't believe they're the real deal. That's your headline.
No, the headline is the Panthers believe in themselves. I do not believe in them.
You believe in what you just said, I wonder. Go ahead, Frank Isola.
Clinton Yates, they made the Super Bowl, this team, with Cam Newton as their quarterback. I'm not worried about his temperament. I'm worried about his legs, because a quarterback like that, you run a lot, you're going to take a lot of hits. Do you know that he would be the leading rusher on 12 of the 32 NFL teams? He needs, when he throws the ball, great. Certain times run. But I'm worried about him because he takes more shots than anybody else.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that. If we could expand this conversation a little bit, because we heard there was going to be a new offense for Carolina this year, right, Sarah? And Cam Newton already has more rushing yards this season than he did all of last year. It's not the pass first offense that maybe we were expecting. Go ahead.
Yeah, you had to wonder if some of the up and downs early on in the season, though, were about their attempts to rein him in. And then they go and trade his number 1 wide receiver. They lose Greg Olsen. Then they say, if you need to run, maybe you should run. We kind of just got rid of all your weapons and people are hurt. And look at what they're doing now. So like Clinton said, they do depend on Cam Newton's temperament and how well he plays way too much. You even heard Ron Rivera say there's something great that happens when the light turns on, and the light isn't always on, and that's the problem for the Panthers. That being said, they're already 7-2. They're going to take on the Jets, the Bucks, the Packers. They're going to be a 10-plus win team, and if the light is on and they get back Greg Olsen, they get back Ryan Khalil, this is a team that can go all the way.
And it's 7-3, not 7-2. I think they had a loss to your Bears, Sarah Spain.
Yeah,
Bill Plaschke. You forgot about that one.
You said the light's not always on. It's on now. That's as happy and as energized as I've seen Cam Newton in a couple of years last night. You know, he threw for 4 touchdowns, ran for at least 90 yards, only the second time in his career. He's only the second player to do that in 47 years in the NFL. He seems to have found his mojo back. McCaffrey has been a godsend for him. He's able to throw the ball out of the backfield. It's amazing, him losing Benjamin and losing Olsen and still being this well. And we haven't even talked about their defense. It's the number 1 defense in the NFL. So you throw all that in together. I think I think the Saints have some flaws. They haven't been tested yet. We'll see what happens. I think Carolina's in a really good spot.
Interesting you say the Saints have flaws as they're on a 7-game winning streak. You guys always get me confused here, though, when you talk about mojo being regained or when you diagnose somebody's temperament. Clinton, you brought that up, and I kind of muted you in the middle of your answer here. So I apologize for that, and I want you to expand a little bit on the idea of Cam Newton's temperament, something you're not sure you can really relate to.
If Cam Newton is happy, this team is good. If he's not, they are not. Simple as that.
Okay, is that different than any other quarterback in the league? Isn't that Aaron Rodgers?
When he's one of the best weapons in the league.
Isn't that Tom Brady?
If he is happy and if he is playing well, he is arguably the most dangerous player in the NFL. I think we saw that last night.
Yeah, that's maybe what we saw last night. But Tom Brady runs off the field at referees when there's a questionable call on the field, or he's throwing something down the sidelines, and nobody questions his temperament like they do Cam Newton's. And I just wonder about that sometime. But that's a wonder for another day, because we've been horned. We're moving on. Bill Plaschke, you're in the LA Times newsroom. The UCLA players who were arrested for shoplifting have been released. No charges will be filed. They'll land in LAX in about 3 hours. So I want to talk about this with you. Pac-12 released a statement saying the matter was resolved to the satisfaction of Chinese authorities. They also thanked President Trump for his assistance, because he was in Asia at the time this all went down, and talked about the memorable and enriching cultural experiences UCLA and Georgia Tech had during this trip. You've written that this is not the end of the story, so what happens now?
This is a really sticky situation because we really don't know what happened. Now that charges have been dropped or not filed over there, we don't know what happened to these kids. I would hope, I know UCLA knows what happened. And if these kids were indeed involved in any kind of shoplifting, they got to be off the team for the season. They cannot play for the Bruins this season. They put their team under such duress. They embarrassed the school. They embarrassed the country. President Trump had to even apparently get involved to get them out of there. But again, I don't know what UCLA has a lot of control over this. I don't know what they can say or what's going to happen because, again, we haven't seen the video. So we don't know exactly what happened. There is precedent. Back in 2010, 3 UCLA football recruits were caught shoplifting a young woman's purse before the first day of school. Rick Neuheisel threw him off the team for the season immediately, and they transferred and left school. So there's precedent for it. If UCLA wants to use that precedent, I just don't know what they're going to do.
Sarah Spain, are you expecting a suspension, a season-long suspension, as Bill maybe thought?
I don't know if it'll be a full season long. I think what Bill says is really important. We haven't heard from the players. We haven't heard from the Chinese police. All we've heard is what's come out about what may have happened. We don't know if this actually did, and I believe that it did, but we don't know for sure what the details are. So we need to hear that, and then we need to hear what kind of punishment they're going to get, because thus far, it seems to me there's been a lot of making sure that the relationship with the folks out there is still good, so future trips aren't at risk, and making sure that they get back safely, which is, of course, important. But let's not forget that there needs to be punishment and accountability for doing something like this. I don't know if a full season is correct, but a big suspension.
Clinton Yates?
Yeah, but the accountability factor to me isn't just only on these kids. You're talking about a big-time program representing not just themselves, but the conference overseas. I would like to see what the school has to say about this in terms of what they were able to do from a leadership standpoint. Look, I understand that those kids made a mistake, whether or not they stole anything or not. But for me, UCLA is as embarrassed as an institution as any of those kids are alone for what's happened.
Frank Isola.
And maybe we'll hear from them tomorrow at the press conference that they have at UCLA. These kids caught a huge break from this standpoint. First of all, Alibaba is the company that was sponsoring this trip. The CEO is a billionaire who he just bought 49% of the Brooklyn Nets. So he has a vested interest also in the United States. Then you happen to have the president over there, and he got involved. So I think they caught a break. And isn't it amazing? LeVar Ball, President Trump, somehow, some way, you knew that these two guys would get together.
And he's not saying if it'll be Keenum or the now healthy Teddy Bridgewater Sunday versus the Rams. The first place showdown. Flashkey. Fire sells Zimmer there.
He's got a plan. There is no plan. It's got to be Case Keenum. He's won 5 straight games. He's 5-2. He's 3rd in the league in QBR. Okay, and you don't want to mix this up while they're going good. Besides, he was dumped by the Rams last year, so it makes for a great storyline. Rams coming to Minnesota.
Sarah Spain.
Sunday.
I'm selling that there's any question about who it should be. It should be Keenum, obviously, because of the reasons that Bill said. But I'm going beyond that to say I'm also selling him acting like there's a question mark there. Because while you may think you're doing that to confuse your opponent, what you're also doing is sowing some seeds of doubt in a guy that has very well handled this season so far. Stick with him and stick behind him.
Clinton Yates?
Yeah, I'm selling this 100%. I just don't understand because it's not like bringing Bridgewater back is going to make your team better. They're already overachieving here. With Teddy, you thought you had a situation with a guy who might never play football again, and now suddenly you want to rush him back for the sake of what? Some locker room dispute that you don't even want to air out? This is idiotic at the highest core.
Okay, that's 3 sellers. I'm assuming, Frank, you're going to sell as well. Can you get in the head of Zimmer here? As Sarah was saying, why is he even sprinkling some doubt into Keenum's head?
But he just doesn't want to tell the media. He absolutely knows that Case Keenum is starting 5-2. They're a top 10 scoring offense with him. And then you have Teddy Bridgewater, a pretty good relief pitcher in the bullpen. I'm just happy that Bill Flashkey has a column to write on Sunday. Case Keenum versus the Rams. Who would have thought?
I'm not doing the game. I'm going to be at USC, UCLA on Saturday. I'm not going there Sunday.
Okay. We don't know, but nobody cares what your weekend
Clinton, what are you doing on Sunday? Can you
run
it down for us?
Yeah, Frank, what exactly are you covering over the weekend? That's a better question.
Yeah.
Not the New York Giants is the answer. We'll move on. Tonight's college football playoff rankings. A chain of events. How high will Miami go after beating Notre Dame? Where's Oklahoma after the win over TCU? Auburn. Maybe they have the best case to jump highest. They just beat #1 Georgia. And what about Wisconsin now that they finally played and beat a ranked team? Sarah, first to you.
Yeah, I like where they're at now with the Bama, Miami, Oklahoma, Clemson. I like Wisconsin at 5. I wish that it could get into the top 4 because it stinks to be undefeated and not be in there. But if your strength of schedule isn't good enough, it's too hard to put them in right now.
So you're with, what was that, the AP ranking?
Yeah.
You're buying that. How about you, Clinton Yates? What happens tonight?
Same deal. I think that Wisconsin sure has an argument, but alas, I'm trying to see the Miami Hurricanes play football. Did you watch that game? That was the most fun college football game I've seen in a long time. If you are thinking about making the best television, which is what this is, you've got to have them in the top 4 right now going forward.
Same thing, though. Auburn fans would say, hey, we had a fun game. We just beat Georgia. Oklahoma fans, Oklahoma's scoring, 50 every week? They just beat the number 6 team in the country. Frank Isola, where are you on this?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma's the best team in the country, but Wisconsin, it's a Big Ten, undefeated. They should be in the top 4. I don't want to hear about strength of schedule. They're undefeated in a major conference. End of story.
Yeah, I'm starting to agree with Frank. I was impressed by the Wisconsin victory over Iowa, and I'm sorry, injuries are part of football. Clemson lost to Syracuse without his quarterback because he got hurt. Injuries are part of the game. That's how it works. You lost to Syracuse. Wisconsin hadn't lost to anybody. Put Wisconsin in there instead of Clemson.
Since we have a little time here, can we just go deeper on Clinton's idea that the committee should be considering who's the most fun and who looks best when they're playing games?
If I'm a tune in, I'm going to want to watch a team with the biggest amount of sex appeal, so to speak.
TV appeal matters.
Well, if that's the case, then USC is in the Final Four every year.
The sex appeal is they're undefeated.
If I'm going to tune in, guess what's sexiest? Semi games that actually are close, which means you should pick the best teams to play in them.
No, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to watch these young men run around and wear this jewelry.
Well, you might not be here much longer with that score. This is Buy or Sell 3. Eliminations right after it. Good luck. The groomer mill. John Gruden back to coaching. 2 scenarios. College, Tennessee. Rocky Top Talk wants you to look at the smile here. The no comment they had. And NFL, Tampa Bay, per the Tampa Bay Times report. Clinton, what do you buy? What do you sell?
I'm selling the notion of him going back to the pros because if I'm thinking about the overall football life, if you will, of Gruden, I'd love to see him go to a legacy program like Tennessee and make them something again. That's just me personally, but I know the money might be bigger in the pros, maybe not than Tennessee, but that's what I prefer. Balls.
He's already won at Tampa Bay. So the idea now, go to a place where you haven't won, Tennessee. The only thing is the SEC, they fire coaches in that conference mid-season. They don't even do that in the NFL. It's more vicious in college football.
Flash.
Whoa. Can you imagine how many rules he'd break at Tennessee, NCAA violations he'd have in the first week there? He has
I think he joked about that, actually.
He has no patience for those silly rules. He's already coaching right now in the offseason in the NFL, basically, in his little camps. He needs to stay at Tampa Bay. That's the perfect place for him.
Yeah, that's actually something that he said himself. But we said the same thing about John Harbaugh, and he seems to be doing all right. Jim Harbaugh seems to be doing all right in Michigan, not messing with any of the rules up there. My point is, this feels like Tiger Woods coming back to a tournament. We talk about it, and nothing ever comes of it. So until my colleague just walks over and tells everyone in Bristol, hey, guys, I'd like to get to coaching again.
Showdown. You want to guess what the head-to-head is?
4-2 me.
4-2, 6-0. It's 3-2 because this is the 6th meeting, guys. Do some math. Sarah's in the lead. Good luck to you both. Duke, Michigan State, Kentucky, Kansas tonight. What can we learn about the college basketball season 1 week into the college basketball season, Bill?
We can learn a lot about Duke and Michigan State. I would love to see Duke's 4 freshmen, Marvin Bagley III, looks tremendous. Michigan State's got Miles Bridges, maybe the player of the year. We can learn who our stars are going to be.
First of all, I'm learning that there's college basketball before I make a bracket for March Madness. But secondly, and seriously, how are you going to put a 1-2 against each other this early in the season when we can't make it into some big deal? Because you're right, Bill. We don't learn nothing. Not yet.
I think it's too early then to give a point to you, Sarah, in this showdown. We'll give it to Bill Plaschke. Showdown 2 is breaking the set when you make the World Cup like Sweden did versus wrecking humanity in order to win musical chairs like this Marilyn Terp did. What's the better imposition of will, Sarah?
Well, technically he was sitting on the chair, but it wasn't upright, so I'm giving it to her for knowing that he's not stealing a chair from a girl twice.
How can you not give it to, in the land of IKEA, some guys breaking up furniture, breaking it in half, taking furniture. The birthplace of IKEA, they're taking furniture apart on the soccer field. Tremendous.
Yeah, that's what that furniture looks like when I'm done with their little manual and everything. Bill Plaschke, I think you've earned the FaceTime today.
In all this UCLA mess, there is an underlying story. This could be UCLA's chance to disassociate themselves and break free from the Ball family. As you know, LiAngelo Ball is one of the 3 athletes who finally come home from China after being detained for shoplifting there. We aren't sure what UCLA is going to do, but it wouldn't hurt them to finally do something about the Ball family. If he does get suspended, maybe they would not come back. LaMelo wouldn't enroll there in a couple of years.